Hey folks, this is Rabble Rousing Rich Bergeron.
It's the tornado, Tony Pennicott.
And Psychic Competitive is crystal ball unveiled and red hot.
Alright, yeah, we made some good predictions last week. We didn't get the exact results right, but we got the right players, I believe, most of them. We did solo last week, and this is like the longest break Tony's ever taken from the show. 2 weeks, would we call it a sabbatical? It's been so long, Tony.
And it was I actually might have made it home in time last week, but it was a very, 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 very long day.
Oh, I'm sure.
I actually would have been somewhat coherent, which is unlike Bob.
Yeah, we didn't predict that.
I want to, but yeah, well, if you would have predicted me not being coherent, I wasn't for a while coherent it up. You know, because I had to go to my job the next day, and that's been dreadful the last 3 weeks. So,
well, I'm sure. Yeah.
Not as dreadful as what Rich is going through, because I see your posts.
You hell.
But I'm
going through you hell. But yeah, I'm piecing it back together.
I want to tap into Tom's crystal ball.
All right. Well, before we get too much further, I want to tell you guys we might need to change this title of the show this week, because we're going to be talking about slapping, biting, and kissing. We've got 3 stories with the main gist are those 3 things. Okay, we've got Paulie Malignaggi.
It sounds like a normal day for me to take the kissing part of it.
Right. So we got Paulie Malignaggi slapping Artem Lobov and making death threats. If you watch ES News, Ellie Seckback, who I actually saw in Vegas and then saw Floyd rip into jokingly during one of his training sessions. But yeah, Ellie Seckback filmed the whole thing. And then you have kissing. Pulev won his fight the other night and had a conversation with a reporter. This was in California, and he gave her a full on-the-mouth kiss at the end of the interview. And she thanked him afterwards. It was kind of an awkward thank you, but she thanked him. It was kind of funny. And, you know, obviously with the Me Too movement, she had to come out and complain about it. But the California State Athletic Commission is taking it pretty seriously, believe it or not. And then you have, a case or a fight with, you could come up with endless jokes here, but I have my own. I don't even know if they've come up with it out in the media yet, but I've seen a dental breakdown this guy had because he bit somebody in the ring, like Tyson here. But, mine is The Price is Bite, because he bit a guy named Price.
Oh, that's good.
We're really close.
The Price is Bite.
Close, but we don't.
And, it was pretty bad. It bit him on the midsection while they were down. He basically tackled him. The guys had some issues prior to the fight. They had some history, you might say. And so it basically didn't last long. And the other guy, not Price, tackled Price to the ground and bit him in the midsection. So.
Price's expression was priceless.
Yeah.
Okay? When that moment happened, you know, he was looking at the referee, pointing his glove down there, you know. Yeah, when that happens, that's, wow. Just a complete lack of self-control.
Yeah, and, you know, that is the best excuse why you don't want to rematch the guy. He basically came up with the best reason ever why you don't want to rematch the guy. I don't want to rematch that guy. He's an animal.
Yeah, I'd never be in the ring with that animal again.
Yeah. All right. Bad news for one of Tony's big sports, and probably there's some biting in that too. Fake biting mostly, but John Oliver, big in the news this week, just laying into WWE and Vince McMahon and showing some clips. Now, on the other side of this, I have to say that I did read that WWE claims they gave him all kinds of information to refute all his claims before the broadcast, and he didn't give didn't actually broadcast any of their defenses, according to them. But I don't know if you guys have seen it. I posted it on our site. The video of John Oliver is about 20 minutes long. He just rips into the WWE. Have you guys seen that? Hello?
I did not.
Okay, well.
I didn't see it.
It's bad. It's bad. You know how WWE likes to glorify guys going through tables, and just the whole career of mankind is basically what he's lashing out against, and like guys like Jake the Snake having to go to GoFundMe for his surgery, rather than somebody from the WWE who made a lot of money off him, just taking care of it. And basically probably the best line in the whole diatribe, as what it's called, according to my old English teacher. When somebody does it, it's usually in writing, but this is on TV. He said, the NFL this year is deciding to, go through different concussion protocols and give players health wellness accounts, as they call them. And they're also doing an NFL legacy fund where they take care of issues with older athletes that are retired. And so John Oliver says, it's pretty effing sad when you lose the moral high ground to the NFL. And that was probably his best line of the whole thing. Now, I mean, I don't watch wrestling enough to be able to criticize anything he said, but he's supposed to be funny, and he was funny with it, but this was one of the most pointed criticisms you could give, and really, I think that he was really into it more than a lot of his other stuff, and he made news right away with it. I mean, it was like instant, viral video, and most of the argument is one of those arguments that I know too well, because it's the same one that the UFC uses for not wanting to take care of their fighters, and it's the independent contractor situation. And Tom, you would get a kick out of it because
Yes.
the whole diatribe by John Oliver, its main key facts are broken down into examining that relationship between the WWE and their independent contractors, who are, like the UFC fighters, exclusively bonded to the WWE, even though they are independent contractors. And John Oliver broke down the IRS law associated with independent contractors.
Well, yeah, to sum that up in one word, well, in a little phrase, in fact, I just had a seminar on that last week, the degree of control.
Right.
And if you're with one organization, see, they're cracking down on that. It's been a big issue this year. And if you show up at a certain time, told when to take your breaks, you use the company's products, and you're an employee. And they like to just give a 1099, so there's no health insurance, they don't have to withhold taxes, all that stuff. It's all on you. So
right.
IRS is going to war on that. I think the WWE is going to lose that one.
And at the same time this is going on, the documentary channel there, Viceland, is doing a series they call Dark Side of the Ring. And they're going to dive into the biggest controversies from in and out of the ring involving professional wrestling's most notorious superstars. So this isn't necessarily all bad stuff, but it's just really diving into the drama of the WWE. They're going to really get into Macho Man and Elizabeth, plus the dark side of the multi-generational Von Erich wrestling family and the so-called Von Erich curse. And they're also going to be talking about the infamous Montreal Screwjob. And actually, Bret Hart is mentioned and featured in John Oliver's diatribe. So it's definitely worth watching. Also, the overdose.
I remember all of these, actually.
Overdose of Gino Hernandez and the sexual misconduct and industry manipulation allegations against female star the fabulous Moolah. Never heard of that. So, yeah. Interesting. So Viceland.
Damn it.
So what do you say for wrestling in its defense, Tony?
History has demons. And hey, trust me, with professional wrestling, you run into a lot of things where you have guys that have overdosed. I mean, you look at all the guys that have passed maybe young age, guys that, and maybe some of them weren't maybe as young, with your Randy Savage, who had a heart attack, which led to a car accident, which was likely from years of substance abuse. You've had other guys, that had the heart attacks from steroid abuse, or other guys, the painkillers, the oxycontins, and the alcoholism, and that have led to the demise of a lot of guys. But at the same time, overall, look at it as a whole, and look at the positive influence that you've seen over the last 30-some years, and you go back and you see, like, the guys that are doing the Make-A-Wish Foundations, your Hulk Hogan's, your John Cena's, which were two of the bigger guys that have ever done that. You have your Stone Cold Steve Austin, you have The Rock. These are guys that brought, a lot of hours of entertainment, to fans watching on TV. But they've also brought, a lot of personal, memories to maybe some younger fans, or fans that are, battling with debilitating conditions. So, yeah, while there is obviously a dark side to the sport, and, as the man, a lot of times with what he's done has not always been, on the most up and up. And I'm sure there's a lot of guys that would like to have a word with him. But, you look at it overall, from what has been provided, the entertainment, a lot of the guys, being rolled to the younger generation, you got to say the positives are definitely outweighing the negatives.
All right. Well, good argument there, Tony. You might have a future as a lawyer. No, but seriously, that is a good point. That is a great point. You know wrestling better than I do. That's why I ask you.
That's a good point.
Why should it?
I was down at Hogan's Beach Shop 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I can out-psychic Tom.
All right. Let's hear it.
Yes, somebody.
Okay. So now, every year when I go to Florida, and I'm sure you saw photos of me acting a buffoon, which is what I do, that's what I'm comfortable. When I'm in character, I'm great. Like, the last few weeks, I've been battling a lot of issues, and people are looking at my Facebook post, and they're not really liking that much because they're seeing the side of the tornado, which is not what I want to be.
Right.
But I'm dealing with life. But when I'm in character, I'm a completely different person. I'm doing the thumbs up, I'm doing the notice and all that. So I go down to Florida, and I meet my friends in Clearwater Beach. We're going to go to Hogan's shop. Now, my friends from home not know when I'm going. They just know in a 4-day span, in a total of 96 hours, one day I'm going to be at Hogan's shop.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm down at Hogan's, and I'm wearing my Hulk Hogan T-shirt, and I'm posing in front of his statue in front of the store, and doing one of the traditional Hogan poses, and my friend there is taking a photo of me. He hands me my phone back and goes, "You just got a text message." Okay. I opened the text message at the exact second that I was taking that photo. My friend and his wife were sending me a photo from Philadelphia of my godson in the Hulk Hogan shirt I bought him at that shop the previous year, almost to the day.
Whoa. Yeah, that's some psychic.
I mean, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. Coincidence or synchronicity, or do we have a deeper force at work?
What were those Time Life books they used to sell? Do you guys remember those commercials for the Time Life books where, like, one sister had pain at the same time the other sister had it thousands of miles away?
Yeah.
That's what that sounds like. You need to write another one. Include yourself in it.
So you'll like this as well, because I was looking at my Facebook memories yesterday. The last 2 days, April 2nd and April 3rd was a year ago that I was on the Creed 2 set.
I saw that.
And
saw
I'm
that
going to get back to that in a minute. I'm kicking myself over something. But I was on the Creed 2 set, and, you know, I was like, man, I wish I could find that guy I was. Great language that I'm really struggling, but it's okay. But so when I got back from Florida, I went over to visit my friends, and you know, to bring the little boy his new Hulk Hogan shirt, and also got him a signed copy of Creed 2.
Awesome.
And I had to pull some strings to get this, but it says to Dominic from Uncle Tornado, Best Supporting Actor.
Little that line. Did you get that from somebody else, or did you make it up?
But no, yeah, exactly. Last week there were some fights in Philadelphia, and I wanted to go, but no, it was a Phillies game at home on Saturday evening at the same time.
There was some fights. All the fights were in Philadelphia. What the hell? Philadelphia had monopoly on fights.
This
Even the UFC was in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I know. Well, they had the UFC, because I had friends of mine that went to that. The card that I wanted to go to was down on ESPN and ESPN Plus, down at the 2300 Arena. So I was like, I wanted to go down, but I'm like, dude, traffic is going to be insane with the Philly game and all that stuff. I'm like, you know what? No, I'm not doing it. I'm not there. I'm on TV. So I watched it on TV, and of course, Teddy Atlas was there. You know, and I got to basically shake his hand one time. But
okay, I have some observations on that fight. But go ahead.
Well, but you know who else was there?
Who?
Andre. Now, I've been a fan of Andre Ward for over 20 years now, right?
Right.
Maybe 16 years, right? But I just wanted to meet him and say, hi, look is the picture of you? There's a Creed 2, and there's me in the background. I sat 5 feet from you, but they wouldn't let me talk. So on that, I'll tell you, it's fight hard, and he was very impressive. Was that young man that started at my gym, Sonny Conto, and I remember when I met him with the small, I'm like, oh yeah, your old trainer. I said, he and I were sparring together before you were even born. Now when he fought last month, he was fighting a guy from Buffalo that was 0-4. My dad said, Buffalo 0-4, kind of like their team in the Super Bowl. And this guy did, as soon as he came near him, he would fall. Then he faked the knee injury, and they stopped it. This guy that he fought this time, you know, obviously it's his second pro fight. The guy was, I think, 1-5. So obviously, you know, a Rich's mismatch of the week. But it's where you got to be at this point. So suddenly being, you know, big 6'4" guy, backed this guy up against the ropes, unleashed a couple of wicked body shots, and then he hit him with a left hook upside the head, and that's the best way to describe it. He hit him with a left hook upside the head, and actually knocked the guy under the ropes. He beat him to the guy who rolled under the ropes.
Awesome.
So yeah, second fight, and you know, the trajectory's looking up.
Yeah, and the main event, I don't have the fighters' names in front of me right now, but the main event was uneventful, you might say, but I think it was Ndugu or something like that, the guy. Ngumbu? Was that his name? Okay, so he had a decent game plan. He was actually making progress. He was doing well. But Teddy Atlas's fighter was just persistent. He had the better jab. He was the smarter fighter. He wasn't tiring himself out. But where the fight went sour is when the guy had the leg injury. Okay, so he had the leg injury and the fight gets stopped. But the announcers keep telling you this fight should be over. I don't understand what's going on. Okay, none of them picked up on what I picked up. None of them. They showed the tape 6 times and they didn't pick up on what I picked up. You guys know what I'm talking about?
What's that?
That Ngumbu was fouled. He was hit in the nuts. Okay? If you watch that tape 6 times like I watched it, you can't deny it. He was hit in the nuts before that happened. Right before he injured his leg.
So he was hit in the groin and his leg gave out.
Right.
Is that it?
Yes.
So, I'm not seeing the correlation. What is that? Correlation is not causation. Okay, so he was limping.
No, I'm not saying the fight shouldn't have been stopped. Okay, the fight should have been stopped, but they're all arguing about how this fight should be over right now. I don't know why they're giving him time to recover. Okay, they're giving him time to recover because he was hitting the nuts, so he gets 5 minutes, right? Whether it's a leg injury or not.
So, that's a good point, because obviously the referee didn't call it a low blow. Or did the referee?
No, I think he did.
I did.
I think that's why the commission had to come up and explain everything at the end. That's why they finally stopped it, because his 5 minutes was up. But he had 5 minutes.
So it was just like a coincidence that his leg went bad.
No. It was the reaction to getting hit in the nuts. He swung his leg back and planted it wrong. So it was freak. It was freak, and it's nobody's fault. It wasn't the guy who hit him in the nuts' fault. He's moving around a lot. He got hit in the nuts, inadvertent foul. But yeah, the announcers is my beef. They should have recognized that. They saw it 6 times. How can you not see that? Like, he got hit in the nuts. They're all whining and moaning about how the commission isn't stopping it right away. You guys got to have 5 minutes to see if we can stretch it out, Even if it's not his nuts that are hurting. You get hit in the nuts, you get 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my criticism of the week.
He collapsed after that low blow, and his leg bent, and then his leg was finished.
Right, exactly.
That's the story. Okay, so then he was finished regardless.
Right. He wouldn't have won the fight. Wouldn't have been a no contest either way. Because it's not like the UFC where you get hit with an illegal blow, and if you quit, you get either a no contest or you win by disqualification. It's not like that in boxing. It's different rules. So, yeah. It's just, to me, it's just mind-blowing, though, that these guys are paid so much to watch these fights and give their analysis, and they don't see shit like that. They showed it 4 or 5 times that I saw, a minimum, probably 6 total, I'd say. So, yeah, they missed it. I don't know what kind of angles other than the one they showed they have, but I'll tell you, I bet you there's some ringside photographers who have that low blow somewhere connecting. Pretty solid. And obviously, that really didn't hurt him as much as it caused him to make a reaction. And then, by the time he probably realized his nuts were hit, his leg's all busted. So, yeah, it's just ugly when a fight ends like that, and nobody notices shit like that to me, because the guy was doing pretty well up until that point. It's not like he totally gave up and faked an injury there. That was a real injury. And as we all know, if we've ever been hit there before, we all know you're going to do some funny things afterwards, right?
Yeah. So maybe we need an instant replay.
Yes.
Like you said, it wouldn't matter.
No, because the fight would have been over.
There was another example, because I'll admit that I got carried away in the moment when all of the announcers were so adamant about that.
Yes, me too.
So I just really, I just may have taken a popcorn break or something, and okay, that's the way that took out. So I wasn't even watching this slow mo. So shame on me. I just didn't feel the need to, because I didn't see it initially, but with all those different angles, you think something would have.
Yeah, to me it was right away. I'm thinking, what are you guys blind? Like, obviously there's a foul here. That's why they're giving him 5 minutes. It's not a mystery. It's not like you guys are the only ones watching this fight. We're all seeing the same thing here. So yeah, it's like they immediately go to corruption. Like, oh, it's a corruption. It must be screwing this guy over. Why are they giving him 5 minutes? This is wrong.
Well, and then how about the fight before that? Was that a little disappointing for the guy on his way up? I think.
Right.
Yeah, and you know what? I thought Ray Robinson won that fight.
It was I'm not going to argue with you. You know, you could easily make a case either way, but yeah, I mean, I could say the same thing. I mean, some of those rounds were awful close with the coin, but yeah, that kind of took the wind out of the so-called title counter, because now.
Well, Ray was very defensive, you know,
and going to go up against Terrence Crawford.
And his argument at the end of the fight was that that was the smarter approach, was to take a lot of punches on my arms and block them, you know, and then land the better punches. And I mean, I can't argue with that, because that was pretty much my style. Less rounds, of course, but same concept. And
you know, I've had this with Big Barrel Robinson. I mean, being a Philadelphia guy, I mean, I've seen him early in his career, and I'm talking about, I mean, I've covered his fights back as far as 2011, maybe. So I am very familiar with him. I'm very familiar, you know, long arms, southpaw, difficult style. He's almost like, for lack of a better comparison, a poor man's Andy Lara. You know, never going to be a barn burner of a fight, but his way of winning a fight is neutralizing you, using arms, using that awkward southpaw stance to frustrate you while picking up points. And that's exactly what I had him, you know, some of those were taught, but I'd give it 6-4, definitely, but maybe even 7-3. On that fight. And
wouldn't you admit, it's hard to look good against a guy like that. It's very hard to look good against him.
All right. Well,
it's possible sometimes.
Yeah, it was a good card for ESPN. Definitely one of those ones that I could avoid watching. I got a lot of fights this weekend, but that was a big one. And I haven't really watched that much boxing at one time for a long time, so that was nice to do. And a lot of entertaining fights there at the same time. Now, here's one that just came out.
Back to what I'm saying
go ahead.
I will say back to what I was saying at the beginning of our broadcast. Before I forget, we all know how forgetful I am. I want to tap into Tom's crystal ball. The top, because you are all knowing and all powerful. What do you think I may have started the planning of today?
Started the planning of, you said?
Yes.
When did you start the planning of? You know, I'm sensing an itch here. Okay, I'm sensing an itch of some serious training and maybe a comeback.
Very good thought process. And that was, if you would have said that 6 months ago, you'd have been dead on balls accurate.
It was my timing off. I was close with no cigar, huh?
I was supposed to have that fight in November. Unfortunately, fell through, and that was Hank being so ill. You know, we haven't really discussed anything else on this. But the itch I had today was, with everything that was just going on, it was like something almost inside me just kind of, you know, just opened up and said, go on the website. Just go on the website. And I went on the website, and tickets are available for Jacobs and Callow if I want to go. I'm looking at a Las Vegas trip approximately 1 month from today.
Oh, wow.
Because I just got back from vacation to that, and I need another one.
Awesome. Well, Vegas, you know, that's where people go, and what's the what happens in Vegas stays there, right? That's what they say. So you can leave all your shit that's bothering you there, and it stays there.
Mm-hmm.
I left some shit that stayed there, I'll tell you. Well, one of the things that actually I was reminded of the other day is, you know, talk about anniversaries, but it's actually the 10-year anniversary this year of a lot of the Giants stuff. One of the first emails I sent to the trustee of the bankruptcy when they went into bankruptcy was around this time, 10 years ago. And I've been trying to sell my book a little bit more, and I think about getting involved more in the law, especially with this U-Haul thing going on, because I'm going to sue them. But U-Haul is the worst.com, folks, if you're listening. But it's just made me think about it, and I've gone back and I've ordered copies of my book and I've read it again, and it just jogs all these memories. And if I really think about it, considering all the cases that I'm not even named in, that I've helped out with, and along the subject of the show, I also helped out Reggie Johnson a little bit in his criminal case down there in Texas. Former light heavyweight champion of the world. So, it's just like the amount of experience I have for a guy that didn't go to college and didn't get a law degree and never passed the bar in any state. It's just mind-blowing. Just because I wanted to write a couple books. And, if I ever really did write the good books that I need to write on those two cases, the two major cases that I was involved in, I think they could both make it into movie theaters on the movie script alone. So, it's just a big thing, a lot of things to think about on that front. And I also am thinking about trying to get officially involved in the legal system, because it's reminded me that it's still broken. Of all these 10 years that have passed, it's only probably gotten more broken because I've been out of it. I was one of the only people that would call out the other side for the tactics that lawyers just get away with time and time again. So just a little bit of reflection for me, knowing that 10 years ago today I was deep in the fight to expose the Fertittas, and less than a year ago, in August, and we're going to get to an NFL story here in a minute, so it'll be a good transition. I got a call from an private investigator from the Los Angeles area. And he had more questions than anybody I've ever talked to about the Fertittas. Newspapers and everything like that. A magazine called The Deal from New York interviewed me on the Fertittas back in the day. This guy had more questions and spent more days getting emails and information than anybody, than any investigator for the government, name you. It's a private guy. So, one of my last stories on ZionSucks.com is about how the NFL should be wary of the Fertittas trying to buy a football team. And of course, they sold the UFC with the direct intent to raise enough capital with by themselves and through other people to buy a football team. And coincidentally, the Raiders that are based in the LA area are moving to Vegas. In their first season there, I think is 2020. I think that's correct.
Yeah.
2020. So the Fertittas want to buy that team. Guaranteed, they want to buy that team. And I believe that investigator was hired by that team. So I am pretty confident that my reporting is in the way of the Fertittas accomplishing their ultimate goal in life of owning a football team. So of all the victories that I could possibly get financially or emotionally or anything like that, that just pales in comparison to the fact that I can know that what I did just to put it out there in the public eye that they're crooks is going to prevent them from achieving their dreams. So that's my little soapbox moment for the week. 10 years ago today, that's what I was doing. Fighting the good fight. And to transition to a big ongoing story here, we have some fragmenting in the MMA world, and I talked a little bit about John Oliver's argument with the WWE and how it relates to the UFC, because the UFC fighters are also subcontractors, or they call independent contractors. And Sean Merriman is here. He made a little bit of news last year for talking about getting into bare knuckle boxing, but backed out of it at the last minute. Now he is going to create his own MMA promotion. And he's talked about actually getting in the cage himself. Yeah, it's definitely on for what he calls lights out extreme fighting. And it's going to be having a first card on May 11th in Burbank, California. So also another guy in the NFL in the in the California area. He's a former Chargers player, big-time linebacker, and Pro Bowler. 3 Pro Bowls in his 8-year career. 6'4", 265 pounds, and probably would be a devastating heavyweight in MMA if he could use those hands for more than tackling. So we'll see. We'll see if that happens. But I would bet that he's going to be liking being a promoter more than he likes being a fighter. Anyway, Eddie Alvarez had a bad debut the other day. Bad debut, especially considering he signed, I believe, a 7-fight deal with this new promotion. One championship they call it. So on Saturday night.
Yeah, what a way to get started, huh? What a way to get started.
Yeah, Eddie Alvarez suffered yet another vicious, sobering knockout. Basically, unknown Russian guy comes in and lays him out. And this is not the first time for Eddie, and you have to worry about what they call second impact syndrome and the amount of concussions overall he's experienced. And you see this with a lot of fighters, be it boxers or MMA fighters. They get their bell rung one too many times, and it's like they have that spot now. You just hit them in that spot, and sometimes you don't even have to hit them hard. And it's lights out. Gone. Chuck Liddell's a perfect example. His button got pushed too many times, and his chin was useless after a certain point. So I think this is starting to happen with Eddie Alvarez, and this is a whole article here on radio.com talking about what the Eddie Alvarez knockout here tells us about. There's going to be a reckoning moment here for MMA and CTE, which is a big thing with the NFL players, and there's a huge $1 billion lawsuit. And I predicted this already, that this is going to come back to bite the UFC. And they say they want to be like the NFL, but if they don't want to be like the NFL in the negative way, they need to get ahead of it because they know it's coming. And it's obviously a different mentality in the NFL now that you cannot extend to the UFC. You can't say to the fighters, you're not allowed to hit the other guy in the head anymore. You just can't do that, So it's going to be really hard for them to, come up with some kind of a defense for why they're not doing enough for their fighters. But it's not just the UFC. I mean, it's going to be across the board for MMA. They're all going to have to look at that at some point. But one thing I remember talking about years and years ago, when some of the first studies were done about the amount of damage a boxer has compared to an MMA fighter over their careers, and they started tracking all the fights and everything like that, and they found out that, yes, boxers might have more pugilistic dementia risks, but MMA fighters have, on the average, more concussions per fight. So, catch-22. Which is worse. You don't really know. But boxing is less likely to suffer as a whole sport because of it, because they're so fragmented. There's so many different promoters. You could never hold each one of them accountable all in one big class action suit. They're on different continents, for Christ's sake. So, yeah, it'd be tough to do that. But, MMA, it's most of the big leagues are based in the United States. So eventually I think you're going to see all these fighters band together with some big law firm and file a suit, just like the NFL suit. Even if they're independent contractors, they'll find a way. But anyway, yeah, it's a sad day when you got a guy that's in his first opportunity with the league gets laid out like Alvarez did the other night. And they brought him over there because he's that type of fighter. And there's different. I don't want to say it's worse than the United States, but there's different rules when you go to the Asian countries and you do MMA. It's not fixed fights. It's not fixed fights like it used to be, but it's looser. I would say looser, and it's more tuned towards the audience. The audience is very into the fights. A lot of places like in Japan, the audience would be very quiet during the fights, unlike in America where they're screaming their heads off. So it's different. And Alvarez goes over there with the intent of being that slugger that they like, going out and taking risks and getting hit and taking hits and getting hits. And obviously he lived up to that, but didn't protect his chin enough, and out cold. He landed only a few clean shots, and he's another guy from Philadelphia, 35 years old. He's kind of at a crossroads. Can't be a punching bag for his opponents, and he's going to have to start using his grappling to avoid those heavy exchanges. So, like guys like Khabib Nurmagomedov or George St. Pierre, he's going to have a game like them to really survive those 7 more fights or 6 more fights. So he's going to have a lot of good luck and make some smart decisions, and he should take some time off, to let his brain heal, for one, and get himself checked out.
Yeah, because he's been around a long time.
Right.
And had a lot of wars.
35 hard years on him. And there's a big steroid story in the news this week because we have the very first UFC fighter to be issued a lifetime ban for repeated drug test violations. And it's Ruslan Magomedov. And this is because after several violations, 2 failed previous tests, he refused to submit to an out-of-competition test on February 5th that was considered another violation. That's his third, and by the terms of the UFC's anti-doping agreement with USADA, he has an automatic lifetime ban. And he is the only UFC fighter to have 3 violations. Can you guess the other 2 fighters that have 2? No, 3. 3 fighters have 2. John Jones, George Sullivan, and Ricardo Abreu both have 2. So 3 strikes, you're up. Now, this does not stop him from competing in MMA, okay? Because he can go to M1 in Russia or one championship in Singapore and do all his fights overseas. There's nothing stopping him from doing that. And they don't traditionally hold up United States, bans and stuff like that. He could also go to kickboxing, just compete at that level. He's not banned from that. I don't know how much experience he would even have there, luck or ability, but, just an option. But during his UFC career, he was actually undefeated. So he may be one of the first fighters to show that maybe being juiced up actually works for some people. Because I remember years and years and years, I believe a website called Cage Potato had a list that was just comprehensive, went through every single the history of all the violations in the sport of MMA. And 95% of the time, I want to say, in that list, the fighters lost. So it just kind of shows that, it doesn't pay to be a cheater. This doesn't. But he might be the exception to the rule, as they say. 31 years old from Dagestan in Russia, so obviously M1 would be a perfect fit for him. Same republic that produced Khabib Nurmagomedov. Magomedov was 3-0 in his UFC career, and he's 14-1 overall in MMA. Even though this article says 99.99999% of MMA fans would be hard-pressed to pick him out of a lineup. Not big names on this record. But, Magomed might take the same path as Mirko Filipovic. He was suspended by the UFC and later fought Bellator, even though he wasn't under testing during a period of his suspension. But the Mohegan Sun Commission allowed him to fight. So, it is what it is. Yeah, wasn't Magomedov the first UFC fighter to be banned from life? And one of my favorite parts of this article, very creative use of writing, is the guy says, "Oh, maybe it'll be a question on Jeopardy someday." Who is the first fighter by the UFC to be banned for life for steroids? And the answer will be Ruslan Magomedov. Alright, so that's the news. And then we got to get to the fights. We talked a little bit about the main fights last week. I told Tony that we weren't going to talk too much about boxing because, number one, you weren't on the show last week, and number two, all the names were too hard to pronounce in all the big fights. I'm looking at a guy right here that fought last week. Okay, this is his real name. Kudratillo Abdukahorov. I don't know. I definitely didn't pronounce that right. I'm going to tell you that right now. But so we won't talk about last week. We talked about the big ones. Okay, Ray Robinson. That was a draw. That was there. But he fought a guy named Kavaliauskas. I don't even want to try to pronounce his first name. Who else we had last week? Let's see. Gavadzik. Alexander Gavadzik. That was Teddy Atlas's fighter. Fought Dudu Ngumbu. And Dudu did good. Did good for a little while, but crapped out there at the end. But anyway, we also had, let's see. That was last week. We got Vasily Lomachenko tomorrow night going up against Anthony Crolla. That's a big one. And then this Saturday we have a few decent fights.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. When we get to see Loma, it's always exciting. And Crowell's a tough kid, you know, so it could be no walk in the park. Loma is a special talent.
Yeah, for a guy with such few pro fights, obviously he had a lot of amateur experience. He is just so sharp. I just can't get over it. It's just such a sharp fighter. Anyway, I'm going to find that whole card and move the records here quickly before we get to Saturday. Okay, here it is. Just 12-1. 12-1 is his record. Vasily. This is going to be on ESPN again from California Staples Center. He's fighting Anthony Crolla here, who is 34-6-3, so blows him away in the professional ranks as far as experience. Maybe not dominance, so to speak, but he's a tough guy. And this is for two titles, WBA Super World Lightweight title and the WBO World Lightweight title. And somebody that we've talked about for years and years and years and years on this show is also on this card facing a tough test. Gilberto Ramirez at light heavyweight. That's not the guy I'm talking about. He is 39-0. I don't know how many knockouts comes with that. At light heavyweight, 39-0. He's fighting old Tommy Carpensi, who is 29-6-1. We've been talking about Tommy for years. Tough kid. He's almost upset a lot of people, a lot of tough guys, and a scrappy guy. Go ahead, Tony.
Hard and and now he's moving up to light heavyweight. So he's stepping up. Tommy's obviously an experienced kid. Not a great puncher, but he's a tough southpaw. Good skills. So it's a fight where obviously Ramirez is going to be an A-level fighter in this. Carpensi's going to try to play spoiler, but this is the perfect opponent, to kind of step up to the next weight class. Maybe not a puncher, but somebody that's highly skilled, that's going to, force you to work, and, see how Ramirez with the 7-pound weight jump.
And then we have a welterweight match. 20-0 Arnold Barboza Jr. fighting Mike Alvarado, who is 40-4, and none of those 4 losses were any time in his last 6 fights. So he is on a win streak. And this could be a little bit of a barn burner. So this is just a fabulous 3-fight lineup for ESPN. The only other fight they have listed is 5-0 Jose Rodriguez versus Ramel Snager, who is 3-1. Not much else going on Friday, except for in New Hampshire. I won't be able to get to this one, but it's going to be in Hampton, New Hampshire, right on the beach. Guy I've seen fight in Massachusetts, Chris Trietti. He is 27-4, fighting Gilberto Matias Domingos, who is 22-10. This is for the vacant WBC FIGURATIVE Cruiserweight title. We have the vacant USA New England welterweight title on the line between Derek Silvera at welterweight, 15-2, fighting Roberto Valenzuela Jr., who's 14-0. And then another title, the vacant American Boxing Federation Continental Americas Cruiserweight title. Going on between Vincenzo Carrita, 19-1-1, and Claudio Moroni Porto, 8-4-1. So yeah, that's the other big fight. It's way up the road for me. And then we got to go to Saturday for the rest of the big fights this weekend. There's one from Quebec. A bunch of TBAs on this card, except for the main event. IBF World Female Super Welterweight title fight between the Super Welterweights Marie-Eve Decaire, who is 14-0, and Michaela Lauren, who is 31-5. So that should be a real barn burner on the female side of boxing. Very tough matchup there. Now here's an obscure title going up for grabs in Germany, heavyweight. Mohamed Soltby, he is 15-1, fighting Tony Fez, who is 15-7. And it's for the vacant International Boxing Federation Baltic heavyweight title. Is that like owning Baltic Avenue in Monopoly? With a hotel? Alright, so down in Jalisco, Mexico, we got an interesting matchup for the World Boxing Council FIGURATIVE Super Flyweight title. Pedro Guevara comes in at 33-3-1, fighting Marvin Solano, who is 21-3. Super Flyweight matchup there, and then there's a co-main event, it's the only other fight on the card. It's going to be on USA Televisa, by the way, if you have that channel. Kareem Arce, bantamweight. He's 15-0-1, fighting Jordan Escobar, who is 14-7-2. And then we go to Nuevo León, Mexico, where Jamie Munguia is fighting. He is 32-0, fighting Dennis Hogan, who is 28-1-1 at Super Welterweight for the WBO World Super Welterweight title. So this is obviously one of Mexico's biggest fights in a long time right here. This is a major, major title fight. Unfortunately, they don't have it on American TV, but it's being promoted by Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya. So, of course, you'd have to have a De La Hoya on the card. Featherweight, Diego De La Hoya, 21-0, fighting Enrique Bernache, who is 24-12. So, obviously, kind of a tune-up fight, I guess, for Diego there. We also have somebody's won has got to go, I guess, here. We got Patrick Teixeira, 29-1, fighting Dormades Potes, who is 11-1 with one draw for the WBO Latino Super Welterweight title. And then there's another fight on here. Aureli Musino, he's a flyweight. His record is 27-3-2, and he's fighting tough guy. Toughest guy on the face of the earth, actually. TBA. He's a tough guy. You never know who it's going to be. That's why he's so tough. TBA. Alright. Let's see what else we got. They're always on BoxRec. When I look up the date, they put the biggest fights on the bottom. Do you notice that? Almost every time. Alright. So, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, we have a Fox Sports 1 card. Obviously, premier boxing champions involved. Sergey Derevyanchenko. He's 12-1, fighting Jack Kulke, who's 25-3 there. Also have Peter Quillen at super middleweight, 34-1-1, fighting Caleb Truax, who is 30-4 with 2 draws. Super middleweights, Sakio Bika, 34-7-3, fighting Lionel Thompson, who's 20-5. And that's not all. We have Chris Colbert, 10-0, fighting Mario Briones, who is 29-8-2 at lightweight. Jose Miguel Borrego at super lightweight, fighting Hector Ruben Ambriz Suarez. Borrego is 14-2. Suarez is 12-9-2. And then we got Journeyman versus undefeated fighter Darwin Price here, 13-0 at super lightweight, fighting Yakubu Amadou, who is 21-9-2. Well, I just rhymed without even meaning to. So that's it for that card. Big card. And then we go to the big female card on Showtime. Biggest female fight of the week. Probably of the millennium, you might say. Two undefeated girls with great records, great history in the sport. And one of them has 3 times as many wins as the other, but they're both undefeated. Clarissa Shields coming in at 8-0 at middleweight. Gold medal winner, tough girl, fighting Christina Hammer. And could you get a better last name for a fighter? 24-0. Fury, that's the other one, right? Tyson Fury. You can't get a better name than that. We've established that in previous episodes. But for a female, Christina Hammer, yeah, it's a pretty good name. Anyway, lots of titles on the line. IBF World Female Middleweight title, World Boxing Association World Female Middleweight title, WBC World Female Middleweight title, and WBO World Female Middleweight title. And shockingly enough, that is our somebody's always got to go fight this week because there's not a lot of other ones. We also have a heavyweight co-main event here. Rydell Booker coming in at 25-1 versus Jermaine Franklin, who is 17-0. And we have another title fight of the female variety. Elena Grodinar, who's 9-0 at featherweight, fighting Brenda Karen Carbajal. Wonder if she's related to the other Carbajals in boxing. She is 15-4-1, fighting for the vacant IBF World Females featherweight title. And we have another one worth mentioning here. Otto Wallen, 20-0, fighting Nick Kisner, 21-4-1. And I was going to say we have a Jesus fight of the week, but it's a Jesse fight, so can't say that. Also, big news. Samuel Peter is on this card. You know that guy?
Oh my God.
Samuel,
That's from the past, huh?
Samuel
Wow.
Peter. You know what Samuel Peter has the distinction of being involved in? One of the first published articles I ever placed on the internet. It was about a Samuel Peter fight. Talk about dating myself. Remember Oleg Mastkayev versus Samuel Peter? Yes, that was the first fight I wrote about online for a little website that doesn't exist anymore called the 13th Round. And
Wow.
that's dating myself. Because that was... I got to look at his record now, just to give you a time frame. Anyway, he is fighting way down on the card. He's 37-6, fighting Mario Heredia, who is 15-6-1. So obviously, not jumping right into the title picture here at heavyweight. Samuel, he's from Nigeria. They call him the Nigerian Nightmare. He's been a heavyweight his whole career, I believe. But last 3 fights, he got a win against a guy who's 2-21 at a place called Cheers Bar in Tijuana. Won by knockout. Surprise, surprise. Before that, he fought the guy who kissed the reporter this last weekend, Kubrat Pulev, who is 23-1 and was an RTD loss, vacant World Boxing Association Intercontinental Heavyweight title there. Then the fight before that, it was an RTD in his favor against a guy who was 6-9. Win before that against a guy who was 12-3, and then 2 straight losses, one to Vladimir Klitschko and the next one to Robert Helenius in 2011. And that was the beginning of the end there, I guess. Fought Eddie Chambers, got beat by him back in 2009, a majority decision. Also fought Vitaly Klitschko, lost to him by RTD back in 2008. Vladimir Klitschko again, the first time I believe this was in 2005. That was a loss by unanimous decision. Right. So Oleg Mastkayev was, right around this time, believe it or not. No, March 8th of 2008. So about a month ago. Let's see, 2008, 11 years ago. About a month ago, 11 years ago, is when I started writing officially about boxing. Scary stuff. Samuel Peter also had 2 wins over James Toney when James Toney was trying to secure his 70th win in the sport. And I really thought those were masterful performances, and that's why I thought he was going to beat Oleg. And he did. He did beat Oleg. That was probably my first successful prediction, too, when I wrote about that fight. So that was part of... That finished off, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 fights in a row for Samuel Peter after losing to Vladimir back in 2005. And that was also the first loss of his career against Vladimir. So he had a lot of promise before that first loss, and showed that he could put it all back together until he ran into Vitaly. And then another guy, Eddie Chambers, who was just as tough down there in Philly, even though he's from Philly, but he was fighting in Los Angeles. Yeah, then he strung together some wins against some less than world beaters, and ended up with Vladimir again. And didn't go so well this time. He got knocked out. Knocked out in the next fight by Robert Hellenius. And he gave up not too long after that, but now he's back. We'll see what he's got. So that's probably our comeback of the week story if he does well. Anyway, I regret to inform you guys that we don't have a Jesus fight of the week, and I don't think I found a suitable mismatch of the week. Sorry, because there's too many TBAs, I guess. I guess here's a funny one. It might not be the mismatch of the week. The guy's 5-48, fighting guys 1-0 here. His name is Daryl Sharp. His record is 5-48. He's not too sharp, if you ask me. Anyway, all right. So we've got UFC and Bellator to talk about upcoming, and last week's fight for UFC, and just past fight here for Bellator. Last weekend, Tom and I had a stab at predicting Bellator 19, and we had a tough one to predict in the main event, but neither of us predicted it would go 5 rounds. I think we both said it was going to end early, but it was a very technical fighter against a very bulldozing type fighter, just coming right at you. Oh, this is the wrong fight. January 26th, 2018. Yeah, that's not the right fight. Syed Awad was in the main event against Brandon Gertz. Syed Awad came in with a record of 23-10, I believe. And Brandon Gertz, I believe he's all but undefeated. Let me check. 16-8. That was wrong. At lightweight. So they've been around, had a few losses here and there, but very aggressive, tough fighters. And I predicted Brendan was just going to mow him down in the first round. I forget what you predicted, Tom, but I think you agreed that Brandon was going to win. Either way, I don't think either one of us thought it would go to decision. 5 rounds.
Yeah,
no, 3 rounds.
I mean, I just felt that Brandon was just going to just keep rolling, but I had thought that he would stop him maybe in the later rounds, but so I think we both got the right fight, just the wrong time.
Yeah. And then the co-main event was probably the story of the night. You talk about the comeback of the week, comeback of the millennium. Really, I didn't even know this was Daniel Strauss was coming back after a year because he had been in a car accident. And so they showed that inspirational pre-fight thing of how he, was told that he wasn't going to walk again and, definitely not fight again. And he said, F you, I'm doing it. And he did it. And he got the guy out with a rear naked choke 3 minutes and 53 seconds into the first round, and he looked stronger than ever doing it. And this guy was no slouch. Choked him right out quickly. So more power to Daniel Strauss. Obviously, big time inspiration to anybody that's ever been through that kind of adversity of recovering from major trauma. I could say I have from falling off the roof. Jesus, breaking 3 backbones, 2 ribs, puncture in my lung, lacerating my liver. And I didn't necessarily promise as soon as I woke up that I was going to get back to fighting, but I did. And that was before my trip to the Nationals at the Virginia Military Institute. So I had my own recovery, like Daniel, but not at that epic level. So I definitely can relate, but not so much, as far as the grand stage that he's on. So the pressure and the commitment that kind of thing takes, I was just very impressed by that. So good job. Andrei Korshov also got a big win over Mike Jasper. That was a unanimous decision win. And Joe Schilling had a rough one against Keith Berry. Keith Berry basically tried to wrestle fuck him, as Tom would say. Almost the entire fight. And Joe Schilling just scrapped. He scrapped right up to the final bell, and he was able to get enough of advantage to earn himself a unanimous decision, but it was pretty close there for a little while.
Yeah, and I think Barry probably spent a little too much time on the feet, because that was Schilling's best opportunity to win. But I like Schilling's attitude. I mean, he knows what he's got to work on.
Right. And
I think he stayed very poised. He had some great reversals. He was mounted. I did a great, it's really been working hard on it. I mean, how far he's going to go at this stage, who knows? But gotta like his approach.
Right. And we had a UFC fight over the weekend. Neither of us really predicted the way this one was going to go, except I did say.
The card.
I do remember that Justin Gaethje would perform a lot better if he was a little bit more defensive. And I did notice he had not only hands up approach, but his corner was yelling at him, "Hands up, hands up!" So,
and what I said, he's going to have to stay either in close enough or too far out. And
right.
I think he could hold the distance quite well.
And I believe.
And did you notice early on, he started the kicking.
Right, leg kicking.
Exchange kicks.
Leg kicking and just weakening his ability to even stand on that leg.
Yeah, but the point is, he kicked. That's Barbosa's greatest weapon.
Right.
And he said, "Okay, I want to beat you at your own game. Let's go."
Vast improvement on the part of Gaethje.
Yes, and I just felt. Remember what I said? If he fights smart, he pull it off.
Yeah.
And he did.
Took him 2 minutes. 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and I got a spot for him on my team, taking trees down because it was like an oak smashing to the ground the way he dropped Edson Barboza. And Edson's been on the other side of that. He's on one of the most epic clips in UFC history, knocking a guy out. Terry Etten, just straight up knocking him out cold.
Yeah.
And this time it was a punch, and it was him that ended up on the canvas. But Justin, picture perfect. I believe it was a left or a looping right. Either one, it's just hit him right in the temple, and boom! Out. It's just head snapped to the side, and he was out before he hit the ground.
And did you know, Jason? Did you notice at the interview afterwards, he was saying he feels he has a style for
yeah.
We'll see how that goes. He's got a great style to go against him.
Well, I'll tell you, he had probably showed the most improvement I've seen between fights for a guy that's coming in from another league and trying to make a stamp for himself in the UFC. Like he really went to a slugfest war in the last fight, and he learned from it. There's not a lot of guys that do that. We had Henry Corrales on the show. He told us he was happy to get new teeth after he got his teeth knocked out. Some guys are like that, and you can't change them. That's what they love to do. They love to get in there and get hit and hit people. But I believe Justin Gaethje knows that that kind of mentality is not going to last. Not going to let him last in the UFC. So he has to be a little bit smarter about the way he fights, and he was this time. Totally smarter. And then we had Jack Hermanson beating David Branch by guillotine choke 49 seconds into that one. And that was one of the weirdest guillotine chokes I've seen in a long time. He basically slipped it on like you would a rear naked choke in certain position, like like where you just kind of slide the arm in there and just casually get it over the guy's shoulder, and then roll into a certain position where you could cinch it and finish it. He did it with sort of a side move.
He's very innovative. I mean, that was a fight he was supposed to win, but he did it so quickly and impressively that he's there.
Right.
He ain't going to be ignored. That's for sure.
Then we had Josh Emmett versus Michael Johnson, one of the guys who went to an absolute war with Justin Gaethje in the past. That was a knockout win for Josh Emmett, 4 minutes and 14 seconds into the third round, and it was a punch. I kind of stopped watching that after a certain point, so I missed the ending. But at the beginning, it was very competitive. Michael Johnson is no slouch, but Josh Emmett is just a little bit more well-rounded, I guess. He's just found a way to win here. And
I just think Johnson was on my card. I had him somewhat ahead because he seemed to be just in that groove. And Emmett was just he was like a little bit of a day late and a dollar short until that right hand came. Right. And that's the thing about fighting. It ain't over till it's over.
Michelle Waterson, the karate hottie, got a big win there too over Carolina Kowalkiewicz. By the way, this was in Philly. I mentioned that earlier, but I just want to mention it again. The Wells Fargo Center. Paul Craig also got a big win on this card over Kennedy Inez Chakawu. Probably butchering that one. That was by a triangle choke submission. And we had a couple of unanimous decisions. Sodiq Yusuf over Shaman Moraes and Marina Rodriguez over Jessica Aguilar. We had a TKO in the first round. Desmond Green over Ross Pearson. Ross Pearson, scrapper from way back. Ultimate Fighter contestant. And just hasn't been able to get into the title picture. He's just always been kind of one of those undercard scrappers almost his whole career. But who knows? Who knows how long he can hang in there like that? We'll see. But Desmond Green is obviously on the rise. First round knockout, 2 minutes and 52 seconds in. Fifth fight of the night, we had Kevin Aguilar beating Enrique Barzola by unanimous decision. Kevin Holland in the fourth fight of the night got a split decision win over Gerald Mearshart. Casey Kenny, the third fight of the night, beat Ray Borg by unanimous decision. And we had another couple fights. Marina Moroz beat Sabina Meza by unanimous decision, and Alex Perez beat Mark De La Rosa by unanimous decision. And the last big card we have to talk about this week is a big one, a UFC fight card in Atlanta, Georgia. UFC 236, Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier. And we have a guy who is famous for being in wars, and a guy who's famous for being in wars. So on both sides here, there's going to be some tough scrapping, some big on the feet fighting here, and I don't want to miss this one. I don't know how I have to watch it, but Max Holloway is also coming off some concussion issues. He had to pull out of his last fight because he was slurring his speech on the air in some interviews. And there was some concern that his training up to the fight was too severe. He took some damage that was too severe in his sparring. So we'll have to see if he's recovered from that, or if that's going to be an issue down the line for him. And Dustin Poirier, I mean, he always comes to the fight. You don't want to let that 5-loss record with 24 wins fool you, because I think a lot of those losses were earlier in his career, and lately he's just looked maybe not so dominant, but he looked like he can hang with just about anybody in the game. He has a lot of dynamic approaches to fighting that are unique to him. So Max Holloway also is one of those guys like Gaethje who does not instinctively block his face. Instinctively, he likes to brawl and go out there and put his hands down by his waist. and pepper people. So obviously that might come back to haunt him with a guy like Dustin Poirier if he tries that. So we'll see if he learns from his experience and his sparring and decides that, yeah, maybe next time I should keep my hands on him. And this is what it is. Kelvin Gastelum and Israel Adesanya in the co-main event. And this one's exciting too because Kelvin is probably one of the most under-the-radar guys in the UFC as far as his abilities and his talent and his actual position. He probably should be a champion by now. If he had capitalized on all the right opportunities, he would be. But he's not. And he's fighting a guy that probably will be champion if he beats Kelvin this weekend. Israel Adesanya, undefeated at 16-0. Kelvin is 15-3. And Kelvin also has a little bit of a notch on his history with me being in MMA reporting, because this was the first episode of The Ultimate Fighter, the first season of The Ultimate Fighter I was able to participate in as a reporter. Which before then was unheard of because I sort of got blacklisted for all the science stuff. So somehow I got in touch with the Fox people instead of the UFC people, and they sent me all the stuff on the episode of the upcoming season. The first 3 episodes they sent me before they even came out. So I wasn't even allowed to talk about it, but I watched it before it aired. And I tell you, I did not pick Kelvin Gastelum as the one that was going to win that. I picked a guy who's not even in the UFC anymore. Barnett, I believe was his name. Or, I forget. Yeah, he's a big, tall British guy in the UK who had quit his business job and started living in a gym to basically pursue what became a dream of his. And I thought that was the guy who was going to win it all. And I also interviewed a few other guys, Gilbert Smith and a couple other different guys, and from that season, and definitely totally overlooked Gastelum. He was so young too, 18 years old coming into that season, and shocked a lot of people. And he's only got 3 losses in his whole MMA career, so I look for him to really press the action here. He's probably going to be confused a little bit by Adesanya's quickness and his totally unorthodox style. But Gastelum's a little unorthodox too, and he just can bowl you right over, and he has a lot of good wrestling. So, I don't know, this one's going to be very tough to predict. I would say Adesanya wins it by decision, but if Gastelum has a shot at winning, it's probably going to be by some kind of stoppage, whether it be submission or knockout. But he's going to have to really catch Israel sleeping at some point, or being cocky like his role model.
Or just be the strong guy, slow him down, get him out of his groove, and get him on the ground, and use your wrestling.
Right.
I think that's what he's going to have to impose this out. I mean, if he stands there looking for him, it's going to be a long night for Kelvin Gastelum. I mean, Sonya's so hard to hit, so tricky.
And we also have Eric Anders, 11-3, fighting Khalil Roundtree, who is 7-3. Another fight, Alan Juban, 16-6, fighting Dwight Grant, 9-2. And we don't have any GSP anymore, but we have OSP. Oven St. Pro, who is 23-12, fighting Nikita Krylov, who is 24-6. Sounds like a pretty good fight on paper there. Matt Frevola, 6-1, with 1 draw, fighting Jalen Turner, who's 8-4. We got Wilson Race, 23-9, fighting Alexandra Pantoja, who is 20-3. Max Griffin, 14-6, fighting Zelim Amadeev, who is 8-0. Boston Salmon. What the hell kind of name is that? Boston Salmon. He doesn't even have a Sherdog picture. 6-1. That's a real guy's name. Sorry to laugh about it, but yeah, that's a weird name, dude. Fighting Khalid Taha, who is 12-2. Then we got Bilal Muhammad in the 4th fight of the night, 14-3, fighting Curtis Millender, who is 17-4. Montel Jackson, 7-1, fighting Andre Supimtoth, who is 13-6. We got a female fight, Poliana Botello, 7-2, fighting Lauren Mueller, who is 5-1. And then we got a guy making his MMA debut in the UFC. This is a very rare thing. Randy Costa, 0-0, and of course he has no shirt on picture. Fighting Brandon Davis, who is 9-5. That's a tough guy to go against in your debut. He's going to be the upset of the week if he wins. Randy Costa, upset of the week.
Well, what is his story? Does he have some kind of pedigree background?
Oh, I don't
somewhere?
know.
You know?
I don't know. I'll have to look it up. But actually, Holloway, I said his last fight was called off, but I wasn't correct. His last fight was December 8th against Brian Ortega, and he did dominate that. It was a doctor stoppage, but the one before that was called off, I should say. Gotta correct that for the record, or any lies being broadcast on the air. They'll come after me. Let me check that guy. Curious result of the week. We'll see if he has a amateur record. Where'd he go? There he is. Oh no, let's see the one. Holloway versus Ortega. Whoops. Alright, the entire fight card. There he is, Brian Costa. Randy Costa. No shirt dog picture. Randy, no shirt dog picture. Costa. Oh no, 135 pounds from Lausanne MMA, from Taunton, Massachusetts, believe it or not. That's why you got the hookup. No amateur fights on his shirt dog record, as far as I see.
I mean, I'm just wondering if he was like an outstanding wrestler or, some great record in boxing or kickboxing or something. And because you said it's very unusual to be 0-0 and get your first shot in the big leagues like that.
Well, it's not if you know Joe. Joe Lausanne. Lausanne MMA. Obviously, Dan Lausanne, too. Famous fighting brothers. Both spent some time in the UFC. And it's a heck of a gym down there in Massachusetts, South Shore. Taunton is a little bit further south than South Shore area where Joe grew up, but it's not too far out of the area. Even though actually they've got it spelled wrong on Shirt Dog. They have it as Tauton, Tauton. There's an N in there, folks. There is no Tauton, Massachusetts. Anyway, yeah. That's UFC 236, lead-off fight from Massachusetts. Maybe we'll get him on the show when he wins. I don't even think we've ever had Joe on the show. Jesus, we ought to hook that up at some point. I'm pretty sure I can make that happen now. Although, it would have been better to get him back when he was really stringing together all the wins and looking like a world beater.
I think we had him once.
Did we have him on once?
I think so, because he was one of my friends' favorite fighters. Because my friends are always got big ears like me.
I know I interviewed Kenny Florian, but I lost the tape. I thought my buddy was taping. I interviewed him, and it didn't get recorded.
I remember the interview with Florian, but I remember interviewing Joe. My friend was saying, "Is he cool? Is he cool?" I'm like, "He's cool as shit, man. He was a really good interview."
I'll have to find that. I believe it.
Yeah, we go back. I'm probably a good. I mean, you figure I've been doing the show with you for 11 years now. And it had to be in the first year or two, me being on there.
Right. Well, we'll have to research
8
that.
or 9.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, I could probably find. I would be able to maybe not find the interview tape, but I would definitely be able to find the email to confirm the interview if I look through my email. Because I do have emails dating back that far.
We were all back then. We must have put
there's a lot of our shows that are still available. Blog Talk Radio has more than I've actually realized. But if you go to Blog Talk Radio, actually, this is probably a good thing to end the show on. But I told you, Tony, already. I talked to one of our buddies, Dennis Maurice, and
so it's all gonna go.
Dennis invited us all, if we choose to accept the mission, to attend June 6th through 9th, the International Boxing Hall of Fame's induction of our former guest and good friend of Tony's, another Tony. There's 3 Tonys in this story. Tony DeMarco. And we interviewed him years ago. We don't have part 2. Part 2 was on another platform that's gone now. But we have part 1, which is Tony DeMarco started the interview. And it's probably at least a half an hour talking to him. So we must have talked to him for like an hour. And it's a little hard to hear because it was back in the old days when we didn't have such quality microphones like we do now. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. He's a heck of a guy, and he's due for a recap. He's getting up there in age, so actually Dennis is helping him with his speech, so I might end up being a little bit of an assistance in that area.
I thought Marciano statue dedication.
Yeah, Tony DeMarco, probably most famous for his battles with a guy they called the Onion Farmer, Carmen Basilio.
That's right.
And he probably looks more like a heavyweight these days, Tony. But Tony DeMarco was a welterweight back then, and also fought one of the most famous boxers from Massachusetts, who probably I don't think ever won a title, but one of the most famous boxers from Massachusetts, who also became a politician, I should add. Joseph DiNucci, I believe his name was. He was called the fighting accountant, or something like that. No, he was the state treasurer, Joe DiNucci, and he had a boxing career before then. Tough guy. So yeah, Tony DeMarco has been around, fought a lot of guys, and one of the best parts of the interview was how he talked about how he met Rocky Marciano the first time. It had to do with a haircut, I believe. Something about their mothers getting together, or there's something to do with a haircut, I remember. I'd have to listen to the interview again, but pretty sure, yeah, he got a haircut, and somebody talked about Rocky, and he said, oh yeah, my mother knows this person, and the next thing you know, they're having dinner every Friday night or something. But yeah, they got along pretty well, those two. Just another one of those stories of a couple boxers being able to, enjoy the fact that they come from the same area and they have the same love of punching other people in the face. But also, we're both Italian, so you have that connection. So they had a lot of fun meals together. I remember their stories. Anyway, so Tony DeMarco, he's getting inducted the 6th through the 9th. I don't know when the exact ceremony is. The date of the ceremony, though, is the big one. So if we were all to go down there the night before, get a room set up, and then we'd go to the event the next day, what I will try to do is set it up so that we can get it all paid for by a sponsor, because I already got a company called Hybrid Gear, and I don't have the slogans and everything right in front of me, but I'll tell you right now, it's very comfortable shirts. I got 2 large shirts from them, and I'm supposed to do a review and a video, and I got big plans for it. Because you guys know, I'm a hybrid type of person, right? Okay? I'm a blogger, I'm a writer, I'm a radio show host, I'm a lawyer. Should we go on? No. So I'm going to try to tie in all those other things and be like, this is the hybrid lifestyle, the hybrid gear lifestyle. And I'm going to wear the shirt during doing all these different activities and do a nice little YouTube commercial. So what I'm hoping to build off that is taking advantage of our YouTube platform like we should. I just sat on it for like 5 years and just added nothing. So, I think the last thing that I added was John Scully's interview on the show. Although I think YouTube actually automatically adds our show to it now on Spreaker. we do have that feature so that it posts a video. But I want to do planned stuff, so that would be a great event to start with, where we all bring our own cameras, and we all wear a sponsor's gear, and we all film segments, doing different things with different fighters. And I mean, you talk about the amount of people that we could get. I mean, we could fill like 6 pages on YouTube worth with just material in one day if we really got there early and did some work and made it worthwhile. And we could just we could get so many opportunities with other people there that we could network with and get new sponsors. So it would be worth a trip if we could make it happen. So the next couple of weeks, I'm going to do some research, find out where we can get cheap lodging and all that, and start to reach out formally to some companies that might be interested in sponsoring the trip and being named in all the advertising we put on all the videos. So that way they get a return on their investment, And I have enough of a social media presence to really make it worth the while, because I'll blast it out to that too. So if you guys are on board, keep the weekend in mind, and I'll see if I can make it happen sooner rather than later, so we know that we can plan for it.
Cool. Okay.
And I have never been to the Boxing Hall of Fame, so this will be an eye-opener for me, for sure. No? I would have thought you had gone, Tony. You never gone? Tom, how about you?
No.
No, wow.
That's been on my bucket list. But,
oh, shit. So, my pressure's on. Pressure's on, Rich. Now I got to make it happen. So, yeah. All right. Well, we're all going to lose our International Boxing Hall of Fame virginity if we do this. So, yeah. If any sponsors out there are listening, that's our plan. Get in touch. rich.bergeron@gmail.com. And, obviously you can connect with us through the website. There's all kinds of ways there. Fight News Unlimited would love to be at that event, and we have history with Tony, so we can get some exclusive backstage, some moments with him, I'm sure, and before the ceremony, we could do a nice little mini documentary, I'm sure, just on Tony DeMarco, and then just all the other fighters that, I mean, Tony, you yourself, you could just go boxing Rain Man crazy with all the people that you'll recognize. Because, I mean, I'm not even that into boxing. So we'll let you go wild. But yeah, that's something I would love to do this year if we can pull it off. And it's one of those vacations I would really get a kick out of if we can make it happen. So I'm on it. Hopefully I'll have some better news towards that goal by this time next week. So I guess we'll end on that note. And if you guys have any ideas on that front, shoot me in by email or whatever, or Facebook. And go to youhaulistheworst.com. Because they are the worst. I just want to put that out there in case I haven't yet. I don't know if you guys think I'm crazy, but I'm asking them for $10,000 for what they did in that situation. And that's without going to court. Because,
I mean, maybe you can like a nuisance settlement.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, I've done it before. I've been able to take Zions, which was a multi-million-dollar company, and take that term, Zions, and my site was number 3 for search results for science. So, I mean, now I've gotten so much further along. That took me months to do back then, and I was using MySpace to populate the link, and MySpace, and along with the website when I started. So nowadays, I know how to do it with so many more resources. And there's this website called Fiverr where you can buy a gig, they call it, for $5 that will get you to the first page of Google. So I'm going to wreck U-Haul's name because they wrecked my business, basically. They put me on hold for a straight week. And I'm gonna clamp down on the name thing. I'm gonna get it up to the first page of Google within the next couple weeks, guaranteed. And then we'll see what they do. They're going to probably try to come to the bargaining table just to get rid of the site. And I'm probably not even going to do that. I'll just say, give me the $10,000 and then we'll talk. Maybe I'll get rid of it. But the $10,000 isn't for the site. The $10,000 is so that I won't sue you guys. Because I have a case. I know exactly what claim to bring. And I told them already it's going to be $25,000 if it comes to a lawsuit. But I'll take $10,000 now just for the inconvenience and to get over it quickly and put it past us. So, I mean, I'm not a dick when it comes to this, really. That's not asking for too much. They basically said that I cannot use this company that I've been using for a year to do my business. And so a third party came in from U-Haul executive level, 2 third parties. They got in the face of the store manager, got mad at her, and told her that she was going to rape the shit out of me on my bill the day I came back because they were sick of these trucks getting damaged. Now, mind you, I put like 3 dents in this truck over 2 years. I paid 2 times the deductible on the insurance. And I bring this truck back and they sabotage me. They ambush me, basically. And I went out there. I said, I'm not paying you guys a dime. $1,300 bill they tried to throw in front of me. So they've already forgiven the $1,300 bill for my last rental. Already forgiven it almost immediately when I filed the Better Business Bureau report. So then I start researching. And then I find out that they have a class action suit against them. They have one of the worst litigation histories of any company in the United States. I mean, it's just horrendous, the amount of complaints you see online about these people. And some of the incidents have been connected to major accidents. Like one guy said his hood flew off of the U-Haul and hit another person going the other way in traffic. Another guy had the tow dolly ripped his car right off of it, and there was a 17-second video I found of a guy who towed the tow dolly all the way back to U-Haul with a flat tire because roadside assistance wouldn't come to fix it. And it does. This is the funny part. They say all the shit that doesn't their insurance doesn't cover because I use it for logging, right? Well, I'll tell you what. The insurance says it doesn't cover tire blowouts, but guess what? I called roadside assistance, and they came out and gave me and put the spare tire on for me, and they never made me pay for that tire. So they've made exceptions to their insurance in the past for me, even if they didn't this time, whether they knew it or not. So yeah, there's all kinds of things I could throw at them that would make a nice lawsuit, but hopefully it doesn't come to that. Hopefully it's just, the court of public opinion will take over and help me out here. So on that note, I'll get off my soapbox. Let you guys go. Thanks for stopping by.
I'm for about 5% pending Vegas trip.
Yeah, keep us posted on that, and of course send us pictures. We're always going to be interested in what's going on in Vegas. Yeah, hopefully it's going to be a big year for boxing. I mean, this is a lot of stuff going on. Tom and I talked last week, Tony. You missed it, but we actually talked a lot about boxing in general, even though we didn't talk a lot about the fights. We talked a lot about how all these moves that all these executives and promoters are making and these streaming services are making, they're heavily investing in boxing, and it's a bright future. So it's going to be a big year, I think.
I hated maps, but now I got the ESPN Plus app, and I'm like, hey, there's a fight card on the ESPN at 10 o'clock, but shit, I'm going to turn the app on at 6 and watch all the undercard. Last week, since it was for Philly, I got to watch a lot of other guys that, like Sonny Conto, that I know. And I'm like, wow, that's actually pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. And that's always been the key. We've talked about it. You've got to get to know the fighters better. So streaming sites actually might allow us to be able to do that for some of the undercard guys that we don't usually see.
Yeah.
So we'll find out.
The pleasure is over, and I'll talk to you next week.
All right. Hasta la vista.
All right, guys.
Thanks for stopping by.
Enjoy.
Enjoy the fights. Oh, we got Tom off.